Welcome to the Night Shift Court podcast. I'm Pidge.
And I'm Mowen.
We are two shift-working fantasy book lovers and love nothing more than leaving reality behind for a bookish adventure.
Join us as we go under the mountain to discuss our favourite fantasy fiction tales and the authors behind them. Come with us to explore the stories, one shift at a time.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, welcome back.
Happy anniversary.
One whole year. I feel like we need the balloons.
Where are
if
the
we were
balloons?
ever going to have the balloons on our iPhones.
I feel like it's me that does it.
Oh, okay. Celebration.
Oh, yeah, celebration.
Wasn't
Balloons.
it this? Or this?
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yay!
Celebration.
Woohoo! Yes, 1 year ago, we commenced this beautiful journey.
Sounds like we're getting married.
We are. Will you marry me? I'll give you my ring. I can't take it off.
No.
We're still here after a year.
Happy anniversary to us and not to Roz.
Not Roz. Yeah, I just am so glad that we have been disciplined enough with everything that we have going on in our lives to show up here for one person to listen to. Jokes. Thank you for listening to our blubber for a year.
Yeah.
And it's been such a learning experience, hasn't it? We've learned so much.
Something goes wrong every time we record.
No, but
Yes.
something did go wrong today. But tech
And
support,
last time.
tech support fixed it very quickly.
Yes. And
Thank
last
you,
time.
Barry. Thank you, Basil.
Anyway, happy
Yes.
anniversary to
Yeah.
another year of recording.
Yay. So this episode is dedicated to Beastly Tales book box. So these guys are, I think, based in the States but do ship to many a country.
Yep.
And they have launched, and they said like it's launching early 2025 essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
So the cool thing about Beastly Tales book box is that they have a focus on romance featuring monsters, demons, beasts, and obviously beasts of all type, aliens and whatnot. And Pidge loves a beast.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yes. If
Look-
I'm not reading ACOTA,
Yeah.
I'm generally reading something of that genre.
A monster romance.
Yeah.
I think anyone whose favourite Disney princess was Belle can relate.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is me.
Yes. I really appreciate, though, this is the first book box that I have found that this is the feature.
Yes.
So there's a lot of book boxes out there and people like them for different reasons.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's all these really traditional ones and then everyone's got copies of those things. But it's really cool to get special editions of books that you actually read and love as opposed to just random special editions. If you
Exactly.
know me, you'll know I'm a special editions collector.
Holy shit, is she what?
And I swing back and forward between only collecting special editions that I will like and just collecting special editions because I want to turn them around on my bookshelf.
Exactly.
And so I am going to sign up for this one for
Yeah.
2025. That's going to be my book box this year.
For the year.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to tell you more once I get a box and we will do some reviews on them so that more people can join the club.
Yeah, look, so the website is up and they have an Instagram and a Facebook and their aesthetic is really funky, like think old school comic type aesthetic with like really cool neon colours, but there's no content, like there's no book boxes or books or merch to look at yet because it hasn't had a hard launch. So all the best for Beastly Tales book box. We hope that you have a great, successful first year of trade and we can't wait to support you.
Yay. All right. This episode is 52.
Yes, and being that it is our anniversary, we thought the rainbow would look fetching on our beautiful sign. So enjoy that. Let's get into it, shall we?
So Nesta shoots to her feet and says no. She shall not allow Elaine to sacrifice herself or
You
to
shall
do
not
anything
pass.
useful. Yeah, again, Nesta is the Balrog.
She is.
No, she's not. She's
Well.
Gandalf.
She's actually both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
You shall not pass, and then she gets on the other side and
Yeah.
says, run.
Yeah, that's right. So she doesn't want Elaine to search for the trove, and they argue a little bit, and I love this. So Nesta says, I thought you didn't have powers anymore when the cauldron was destroyed. And Elaine's like, I thought you didn't either. So they've been both in denial about their powers and whether they have them or not. No one really knows. Can't confirm, but thank you, Elaine. Now can confirm.
Exactly.
They argue a little bit more, and Nesta tries to remind Elaine of what they both went through. She says that the last time Elaine had anything to do with the cauldron, it brought her to Hyben's camp. And Elaine says, and I remember Feyre rescuing me.
Ouch.
Rude.
Yeah. Nesta didn't like that either.
No. And look,
go down
honestly,
well.
neither did Azrael. Let's be fair.
Yes.
It's like,
what?
I was the shadow.
Yeah.
Like,
He was heavily involved.
yes.
Yes.
Main key player. Honestly, he flew them out of there with ye old Bree. No, what was her name? Briar.
Couldn't
Poor
see.
Briar with her chains around her. Elaine with the chains.
Speaking of Briar, didn't you have a theory that her and Jurian,
Yes, Jurian. Yes, I did have a theory
That
that's
they were
yet to
gonna
come
be-
to fruition.
get writing
I'm writing. No, I'm
several
not.
fanfics in my brain.
head. Now,
Yes.
so Elaine's pissed. Nesta's pissed.
Yeah.
She's very offended. And she says to Elaine, look who decided to grow claws after all. Maybe you'll become interesting at last, Elaine.
And snap.
And I
That is-
agree. Yeah.
Mic drop. And we absolutely agree
Yeah.
with every single word, Esther. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Now, nobody speaks because
Would you?
everyone shooketh.
Okay.
But shadows gathered in the corners of the room like snakes preparing to strike. That is Azrael
Yes, it is.
defending ye old Elaine.
Ye old matey mate. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Now, Nesta turns to Feyre and she's like, well, why the fuck can't you do it?
Yeah.
And Feyre's like, I just can't risk it.
Yes, I'm very busy.
I'm with the child.
I've got a good reason. I am fertile AF.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Feyre. Fuck you. And
Yes.
she
Reese worded it up like Faye were very infertile, right?
Didn't
that
he?
it was very rare. And here we are 6 months later.
Exactly.
Pregnant.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you have to achieve so many things?
Can't relate, you overachiever.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So she's with child.
Yes. And Cassian is the first to react by tackling Reese into the ground naturally.
Yes.
And Azrael kisses Feyre on her shielded head, but he lowers the shield for Cassian to hug her. Interesting. Was he just distracted by being tackled, or did he deliberately not lower the shield for Azrael but did for Cassian?
I don't know. I don't know.
So Nesta's only reaction is to quietly say, congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I think she feels wildly out of place
Yeah.
because they're all happy, and then anyway, it gets better.
Yeah. Now, so afterwards, Cassian and Reese are talking, and so Feyre offers to wait with Nesta while they do so. And she informs her that the baby is a boy.
Yeah.
And she explains that because Elaine found out about the pregnancy first, this was a first that she wanted Nesta to know. So Elaine actually found out because she caught her vomiting for a few days.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think this is really nice, and I think this is indicative of Feyre's ongoing character to care for both sisters equally, despite not actually having equal love or affection back from either of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and I think Nesta kind of has a realisation at that point that, and then she can hear the men hooplaring in the background. So whilst Nesta's hearing that it's a boy from Feyre, they can hear the hoopla of the men that Rhysand is obviously telling Cass and Az that they're having a boy.
Yeah.
And they're naturally having like a real boys bro fucking reaction to it because my husband doesn't have this gene.
Okay.
He's the opposite.
Yeah,
He's like
okay.
so excited that we had a girl, wants another girl.
Yeah, okay.
We both don't know what we would do with a boy.
Yeah.
But most men are like this, that need to have an heir to pass on. It's genetically hardwired into them anyway.
Yes.
So they're having a boy. It's great.
Yeah. They want to be sure. Like, I know that the bone carver showed Feyre the image.
Yes.
But do you trust him?
Well, has Madja been having a look or?
Well, she says to Nesta it's because the bone carver showed her an image of a boy. So I was like, well, you're putting a lot of trust in the bone carver.
Yeah.
But as you were.
Sure.
Anyway.
So Cassian and Azriel back at the House of Wind having a chat now.
In an adjoined sitting room that joins their rooms together.
I think that's probably the cutest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
So Azriel asks if he thinks that if Nesta can find the dread trove.
Mm-hmm.
And Cassian says he hopes so.
Yeah, yes.
Azriel said she should try scrying again, but Cassian doesn't really think that Nesta's going to be up for doing that because of how it went down last time.
Yeah.
They talk about the baby and Cass asks Az if he wants kids and he says yes with Mowen.
Actually, he says, it doesn't matter what I want.
That's not what he says. He doesn't say, he doesn't say that in my head.
Which is really both sad and lovely.
Yeah.
As in, it can be taken a few different ways. So it doesn't matter what I want, as in, like, what if his mate doesn't want children? Or it doesn't matter what I want, I won't get it anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think he thinks the latter.
Yes.
Which is quite sad, actually.
But Cassian does recall that the tension between Azriel and Moore seems to have simmered out.
Dissipated.
And that Azriel, after 500 years, has given up on chasing after her. So I was wondering if that comment was in relation to that.
I think that that's a strange notion because why? Right? Nothing's changed between Moore and Az. Nothing's changed between Cass and Moore. But Elaine is present.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
agree.
the difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, the thing that got me thinking about that was they've just been through this massive war where they all almost died, but Azriel very much so went into Hyburn's camp to save Elaine and then was injured. And do you remember when he said to Rhys, I'm going in. I don't care if you tie me to a tree. I'm going in. Like, that was his final goodbye.
Yeah.
And Moore was just like, okay.
Toodles.
Yeah. Do you know, like,
there was nothing.
There was a big event that happened. And if anyone was ever going to admit their love for each other, it would be then, right?
Yeah,
that's what happened with Rhys and Feyre. That's what happened with Nesta and Cassian.
Yeah.
So I feel like they've been okay for the last few hundred years because there hasn't been war.
Yeah.
And they've just been existing in the bubble. When Amarantha was around, they couldn't really leave Velaris anyway. So it's just a nice big bubble where no one talks about anything. But then the war happened and Moore didn't come to him and profess her love. So maybe he's like, okay, well, maybe she really doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe the game, the back and forward that we've been playing is not a game at all.
I also think that Az has just been used to loving more.
Yeah.
And there's been nothing else and he's like just attached himself to her.
Yeah.
And men do that a lot. Like you hear men fall for their like bestie.
Yes.
But then the bestie becomes available and then they're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
That sort of vibe.
Yeah. Azriel asked Cassian, what about him? Does he want a child? And
he's like, yes.
Well, similar. He says he'd contemplated it often, what manner of family he'd build for himself and how he'd make sure his children never spent a moment thinking that they were unloved or unwanted, never ever spend a moment hungry or scared or cold or in pain, which is basically all the things that he experienced.
Exactly. Oh.
But no female had ever come along who'd tempted him enough to fight for that future. He supposed deep down that it was he was holding out for, the mating bond, what he'd seen between Feyre and Rhys. Now, he thinks about that and then he stands up and says, turn a blind eye, chaperone.
I love it.
So if that doesn't tell us what Cassian feels for Nesta, I don't know. If you can't see it, you're fucking blind. So he literally thinks about the mating bond and then decides to go and pleasure Nesta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes to her room to pay her back.
Yes.
So she obviously relieved him of certain things the other night, and he's like, right, I owe you. So she asks him why he came to her room.
Yes.
And that he made it clear the other night was a mistake. And he's like,
No.
Sorry? What?
Yeah.
And that she claims she saw it in his eyes.
Yes.
And he's like, well, you're not very bright then, Nesta.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't. You weren't looking at my eyes.
Yeah.
You were looking elsewhere.
She thinks that he was filled with regret, and he says, the only thing I regret is that I didn't return the favour. They agree that whatever happens in this moment stays out.
Such a lukewarm agreement where she's like, oh, this stays out of training. He's like, yeah.
Just sex.
Yeah.
Because that's always worked in the past, right?
Sure. Now, I just want to make comment that he does notice her hair is unbound.
Correct. And
which for
sets him off.
prim proper Nesta, who's been raised that the hair is only unbound out of the presence of males and at bedtime, but otherwise is braided into a coronet upon your head. That really helps. Yeah. And the sleeveless nightgown, because you will remember that Nesta has never wore pants previous to coming to Velaris.
She's proper.
That's right.
She's a lady.
The biceps are really doing it for Cassian. She suddenly smells him. Darker and muskier than usual, and I am not okay with that.
I am. I'm good with that.
She realises that it is his smell and says, here for more. I would not be okay with the aspect of being Faye that I could smell other people's randiness.
You basically can.
Who? When?
No, not randiness, but your sense of smell. You can smell a dead thing a mile away. Wouldn't you like to be able to smell if someone, you'd be like,
no.
I reckon that'd be quite handy, if you could smell the changes in other people, because there's some people at work at the moment that I'm sure are keen for one another.
Oh! Fair.
Anywho.
Okay, the smell thing bothers me.
Sure.
I'm not here for it. But anyway, Cassian then has a good close-up look, smell and touch of Nesta.
And taste.
And afterwards, she believes that things are going to continue.
Yeah.
And
he's out.
And he's like, bye. And backward
legitimately
walks out of the room.
She was ready for it.
Wasn't she?
She was. Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hard thing to do.
I think he won. He won that situation, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah. And he definitely planned, even despite his very best intentions to be like cool, he still wasn't cool about it. He was like, it must have been really awkward to get up and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, and he would have gone back to his room and
sorted himself out
a lot.
Yes.
So anyway, they're now even, supposedly.
Yeah.
The next day, the chaperone
himself,
who
did nothing,
who did fuck all
to stop this situation.
He knows what's up, and he comes to training.
Yes.
And he's like, I
Can
want
you
to
imagine
train.
him in his room last night? Could absolutely hear them.
Yeah.
No, could smell them. Could, without a doubt.
Could shadow them.
Yeah.
And was probably watching, to be fair.
And then he's thinking to himself, what am I going to do to
I
really
know.
make it awkward?
I know. I will insert myself into training.
Yes.
Yeah. So Cassian and Azriel are having a sparring match.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. We need to talk about the fact that he has washed his hands 12 times.
Oh, and Nesta's still
last
on there.
night.
Yeah.
And he can still smell her. Oh, and that just makes me want to vomit.
Well, that's why I didn't want to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't like that. But anyway,
but this is the
Nesta's
podcast.
Pussy juice is still all over Cassian.
Brilliant.
So
Burning bright today, are you?
Cassian and Azriel, I am actually.
Yeah.
Are all over each other, and Nesta is watching. They're having a fight.
I'm sorry.
you would like me to continue?
No, I would just want to talk about the fact that when they removed their shirts and Cassian like walks towards Azriel, that he like flexes, and as he gets close enough that he can hear Azriel says sympathetic.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
So naturally, whilst this is occurring, two beautiful, deliciously sculpted, winged fae
Gods.
Yeah, deliciousness. Nesta's mind wanders to a menage a trois. And I cannot blame her because I would also be doing that. I would.
Yes.
I would.
And have you heard about the
Deleted
scene?
Yeah.
I wonder if it happens here.
Surely.
If you had to picture where that chapter went missing,
bang,
was it there?
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Nesta would just strip off her shirt too and that would be done.
yeah, I think that's where the publishers were like,
Yeah.
get rid of that.
Yes.
Fuck off. Also, publishers, fuck off. Let the authors write their stories the way they want them written and the readers want the scene. Okay?
I think that is true, not just for this particular instance, but in all. I want all the scenes.
All of them.
I don't care whether it's good or bad. I want them all.
That's why there are extended versions of everything.
Correct.
Anyway, I'm a bit hot and bothered now.
Okay.
Nesta asks Gwen about the dread trove.
Yeah. To distract herself from her other dread thoughts.
Dread thoughts. She doesn't know what it is, so Nesta tells her about it and that their mission is to find it essentially.
Yeah.
And Gwen, loyal as fuck, agrees to try and gather more information for Nesta to see if she can help.
Well, she's quite sheltered, little Glenn, because she said, Glenn.
I thought you said it, but I couldn't see your mouth, so whatever. Glenn.
Glenn is quite sheltered. Gwen is quite sheltered.
Yes.
And she's excited for the adventure of helping her court by researching the dread trove. And I'm like,
her. I love her. I think she's so cute. She asks Gwen to come to training.
yes.
And she's like, it's not for me.
yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah, that literally was that. Gwen was like, no. Conversation over.
She goes down the steps as far as she can and back up.
2000.
Yeah. Yeah. And whilst she's doing it, she suddenly
Has an epiphany.
She does. She has no epiphany. Sarah strikes again.
Yeah.
She's like, how can I get this?
This book is getting really big. I have to cut it down.
The producers have already cut it through.
They don't love it anymore.
So she's like, right, I'm going to convince the priestesses to train.
Yes.
Okay. So
5 days later.
sometime later,
Yeah.
Clotho calls Cassian down to the library. It's a bit cute. I love Clotho. She's my favourite. Silence.
I don't care about Clotho.
Oh, rude. She says Nesta keeps practicing her training in the library despite being told not to. So she's like shadow boxing and stuff in the library. I love that.
And all the priestesses are worried that she's demented.
Yeah, but also it's good because she's got their attention.
Yes.
This is exactly what she wanted.
Yes.
It doesn't really work, but
Yes.
kind of doesn't.
Well, it's their little sanctuary. And did you notice the part where Cassian wonders if Azriel had ever asked his mother to come here? Yes. And what that does is it proves that she's still alive.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had, do you remember in the last book where he'd asked Azriel to buy her a gift from him?
Yes.
And then he never does?
Yes.
Yes. So, and we weren't sure.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cassian goes to find Nesta and he sees her messing up what she's been taught. She's fucking it up left, right and centre.
Yeah.
So he shows her how to punch properly. He's like, obviously you don't punch with your thumb in your fist.
Another conversation about how to punch people, yeah.
I've actually been told this by a boy before.
Oh, God.
Can't remember who, but
the
anyway.
Mansplaining.
Probably my brothers, actually.
Mansplaining, thank you.
But I, to be fair, was punching with my like that.
Terrible.
I was a child.
Fair. You were also very busy dancing. Hip hop and contemporary.
Middle fingers to you. So when they're finished, he notices a bunch of the priestesses have stopped and gathered to watch, which is exactly what Nesta wanted to do because Nesta, in her wisdom, has been punching wrong in order for Cassian to be like, oh, let me show you so that they can see the female-male interaction that is professional, that is calm, that is kind, so that the priestesses have seen this and they feel safe in what is happening.
Nesta knows that the priestesses will never leave the mountain to come to training.
The mountain?
The mountain. The house.
The library.
House in where are they?
The library.
Where am I?
The mountain sounded like they were atop Ramiel and they were like touching the stone. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong.
The library.
Wrong. The library.
Yeah.
They'll never leave the library. And Cassian will never come into the library without permission.
Yes.
And he'll never get permission from Clotho unless there's a reason in relation to something, be it Nesta.
She's orchestrated all of this successfully, hasn't she?
Crafty Archeron she is.
She is. So anyway, when they're finished, they're all the priestesses are watching and he realises that Nesta's done this on purpose and that's why he was summoned. So Cassian leaves her a book for her to read and it's called The Dance of Battle. And that leads us to Gwyn being the first name on the list.
Yes.
Ready for training.
Yeah. I mean, her average isn't very good, but, you know, here we are.
Yeah.
Considering a bunch of them are watching, then it's just Gwyn.
Look, I think that's all Nesta wanted is one name, right?
True.
Yeah. And
true.
that's all Sarah wanted either.
Yes. She didn't want to have to introduce heaps of characters.
She's like, I need you and you to come together. You need to be three. I've only got three bad boys.
There can only be three.
Yeah.
So the next morning, Nesta and Cassian are training in the ring. Clarify, they're not training, they're standing and they're both nervous. And he's like, stop fidgeting. And she's like, you stop fidgeting.
Love it.
And Gwen arrives. She sees Cassian and is like,
he's like,
so he pretends to go and touch some swords.
Not his sword, okay?
Not his sword. So Nesta approaches her and Gwen realises that she has no proper clothing other than her robes. So Cassian chooses that moment to interject to say, I can teach you in the robes if you'd like, whatever you're most comfortable in. But he doesn't make eye contact. He's just still facing the weapons.
I love it.
Just not to make eye contact with her because you can imagine how uncomfortable it not only is for her but also probably for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So the lesson goes swimmingly.
Yeah.
No issues at all. And they have a little glass of water afterwards. And Gwen admits to Nesta that she signed up because she doesn't ever want to feel powerless again.
Yeah. Relatable.
So that's really nice.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Nesta goes with Cassian to Windhaven to see her other friend.
Her other friend.
Yeah. He's got to go and meet Eris. So she's like, oh, I've got to do some shopping. And he's like, where the fuck are you shopping in an Illyrian camp?
Yes.
But anyway.
Emery's shop.
Exactly.
Yes.
So she goes to Emery's shop and she finds her in confrontation with a customer.
Oh, yes.
A male who is drunk. Bellius.
Just a douche.
Yeah, there's a...
Would you like me to elaborate?
Yes.
Okay. So a female known as Bilius appears drunk and he says his father has sent him to convey a message to Emery, right? So Emery says, message received, fuck off.
Yeah.
The store's actually mine.
Yeah.
If he wants a store, he can open his own, she says. And she stands her ground. Basically, this exchange is all a bit domestic violence-y for my liking.
Yes.
But he agrees to leave after a bit of a confrontation.
Yeah.
And Emery explains to Nesta that that's her cousin on her father's side and they're quite cruel. And, yuck.
They're from a different camp.
Yeah.
And they believe that her shop and any wealth she inherited from her father should belong to her uncle.
Yes.
But Rhys has outlawed, or rather inlawed, females in the hierarchy of wealth.
Yeah.
So he's come to intimidate her.
Yeah. Old mate Bellius, cruel cousin, is scheduled to participate in the rite this year. Nesta and Emery talk about other things now and they say, Emery says, warmer leathers can be made, but it's not going to be cheap, essentially. Nesta says she can't actually afford them because she's been shunned essentially from her.
I'm also a little bit confused as to why she still wants them, because she wanted them when she was at Windhaven. But now that they're training at the House of Wind, I'm like, do you need them though? Because you talk about the sun beating down on you and how sweaty you get. You probably don't really need them anymore, do you?
It's true. Perhaps she's got it in her head that she's going to need them for war, but it is technically a plot hole that is setting up the story of them needing them in somewhere else that they're going.
Yes.
So, yes, Nesta says she can't really afford them and Emery invites her to have lunch.
Yeah.
She says, I'm all alone. I don't have a mate. I don't have a husband. And Nesta and her exchange pleasantries and Nesta's like, I'm the same. Like, it's just me.
Yeah.
And Emery says to her, it's nice to meet another female not obsessed with getting married and having babies. New word.
True.
Emery says it's nice to meet another female not obsessed with getting married and having babies. The food is nice. Emery says she misses spices and things that are used to season food because they're very hard to come by in Windhaven and also very expensive. And she lives a very simple life. They talk of family and she tells Emery that both of her parents are dead and other than her sisters has no family except for a cousin of her mother's who lives on the continent.
Right.
Emery says her mother died giving birth to her and her older brother died before she was born. Her father died during the war with Highburn and her family keep trying to take the store from her because she's female. Nesta offers for Emery to come to train with them and she says someone could come and get her and winnow her to the House of Wind, but she declines. Cassian, obviously he's gone to meet Eris and he's in the Illyrian steppes.
Yes.
And he asks about the Dread Trove and whether Beren has any idea about them essentially.
Yeah.
And Eris says his father doesn't know about them yet, which we hope is true.
Yeah.
And he and Cassian exchange a few words and he calls Cassian a bastard.
Yeah.
And obviously Cassian doesn't like that.
No, he does not. Cassian and Eris have an interesting relationship, but one I'm sure they'll get closer. Anyway, Eris questions why Moore is in Valahan and if it is because she's there seeing if they know anything about the Trove, which is really interesting. How does he firstly know that she's in Valahan to begin with?
They're chatting.
Yeah. And Cassian lies and says, well, maybe. And Eris says, here I was thinking Morrigan was going there so often to hide from me. It's so interesting that every time he's with Cassian, he mentions Moore, which I think is, very interesting. But Eris is cocky AF and he winks at Cassian before winnowing away. And Sarah describes Cassian's discomfort as lingering. The essence remains.
Thank you for a beautiful shift.
That's it for this episode of the Night Shift Court podcast.
Join us again next week as we continue ACOTAR's Book 5, A Court of Silver Flames.
Whichever platform you're listening on, we would so appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review. It helps our podcast grow.
You can follow us at Instagram, Facebook and TikTok at The Night Shift Court.